Hi guys, and welcome to another colour along. Today we're colouring Phoenix from Mountain King, and I was thinking these Phoenixes need to have some flame colours going on. Before I get to my flame coloured Phoenixes, I was thinking of doing some colours along this border. So we've got the reds, maybe the reds and oranges of the wings. Maybe we need to flip to a contrast with some blues and bluey greens for our border. Alright, so I just tested out a few colours I've got. I'm sort of loving this greeny blue vibe I've got going on here. So I have a deep sky blue, a light green holly, and a mignonette. Ohuhus. And I'm just going to focus in on that border. I'm going to kick off with, let's kick off with this light holly green. Now before I go, I've got a sheet of paper and a sheet of acetate. Under here, the acetate stops it going through, and the sheet of paper helps absorb, which will help from the bleed, will help the bleed. If I just had straight acetate, the bleed would just keep going. So putting absorbent paper under here is just going to help it to not go out of the lines and get crazy on us. So I'm thinking that this border is our light holly green. So I'm just going to go ahead and colour in both sides of this border. It's always a joy to be colouring in Mountain King. It's such a fun book with so many cool fantasy themes and mythical creatures, and here we have our phoenix. Isn't this a great colour? Light holly green. I'm not sure I've ever used it before. Sort of a minty, tealy mix. I'm going to try a thicker nib, see how... Maybe not. Alright, that's the end of our light holly green. Got our borders in. I'm really happy with that green. I'm going to bring in a really dark, lovely, rich, deep sky blue. And I'm going to fill this outer border in with that deeper colour. Just going to play with it a little bit down here to start with. Now the trick is to not let your marker sit and absorb into the paper. That's why I'm using a fine nib, is just so I can lightly brush the top of the surface, because I don't want that to be, this dark colour to be bleeding in and blocking filling up all of the spaces around it. So I'm just going really lightly. And the other trick is to keep moving. You want to colour like in a wave. So you're always interacting with a nice wet surface of a nice wet line of that ink. Because if I was to let this dry, come over here and come back, then I'd get a line where the dried one meets the new wet one. But if you keep going, which is why it's fun, you can just fill gaps. Like this board is awesome because there's no great big spaces that you'd have to fill. You can just fill in all the little spaces like this, and then you're done. So this is a pretty big one, but and another trick is when you've got a little gap like this one, that's not going to be such a huge thing if you let it dry there, so you can fill in all above it and then use that as its own little space here. All right, so we've got our border blocked in. Now I'm just going to colour in this colour. I wanted to colour in the centre part. Something similar to this green but way lighter, so I'm hoping Mignonette is going to be that colour for us. I'm just going to colour that in and let it dry and see what it comes out as. And while that's drying, I'm going to just play with putting some of that greeny colour into the wings, into the feathers of our bird. And I'm thinking it'll be fun to contrast the warm colours with these cool colours. So I think I'm going to sort of go around. Maybe go around here. So this is the lighter one, this is the Mignonette. I think I'm going to bring in some of that darker colour. See if we can't blend that in. As I say, light holly green. So I'm pretty happy with that. Maybe I'll pick out with our mignonette just like a feather here. Maybe inside these dots of the sort of peacocky tails, aren't they? All right, let's get some of that colour onto this bird. And then I'm bringing back in the light holly green because I want to add in texture and shadows to these feathers. I'm almost wanting this to look like something that's painted on a vase, an old Chinese Ming Dynasty vase. Which is why I'm being really controlled in my colour choice. It's almost monochromatic at the moment, which is, I think, going to be lovely in the end. So this is back to our light mignonette. And I'm just going to colour that whole section in. All right, I'm just going to play with a little bit of Naples yellow. Oh, a bit too dark. Maybe a lemon chiffon. Lemon chiffon. We're going to bring in some warm colours, and I'm thinking maybe we could have a little bit of texture happening in here. That sort of marries those warm colours with these cool colours that we've already got going on here. I think it's going to give us a lovely little, really subtle texture. Sort of like a marbling almost. That's the plan. That's my plan anyway, guys. I've done that while it's wet so that it all sort of blends in, and also gives an opportunity for that lemon chiffon to maybe pull out some of that colour. A little bit of Naples, I don't think that's so bad, is it? I might just put a little touch, little bits of that maple. Anyway, back to our mignonette. Naples yellow, and our lemon chiffon. A little bit of Naples yellow, not too much, some spots, some big spots, some little spots. As I said, we're just trying to get a little bit of effect, like a marbling effect going on in there. Putting a bit more of the lemon chiffon, even going over some of that Naples to just sort of blend it. Once I get towards the top, I'm just going to go a little bit harder with that chiffon. In the hope that will give us a nice little blend in our background up. All right, well, I think what we need is we've got this colour we used for our spine here, deep sky blue. And I just want to bring in that colour really softly to their eyes. We have this little Asian vibe signature along here. I'm going to go with my light holly green. And you may notice that that does say RJ. If you look at it hard. All right, I think we've got enough of our greens, we've got enough of our base colour. What we need to do now is contrast that. So let's bring in some warm reds and oranges. All right, here's my warm colours I'm bringing in. I'm bringing in a canary yellow, a deep yellow, a French vermilion, and a coral red. So let's play with those colours initially. Let's play with it a bit on this head. Well, maybe I'll start with the lightest one. Chiffon, lemon, no, Canaria. And then we move on to our deep yellow. Making sure we leave our white eye. Right, French vermilion. These are phoenixes, so we need to get those flames going, don't we? And I think we bring back in our deep yellow and just do a little bit of blending. All right, I'm going to bring in a deep teak for the beak. So it's along those lines, but it's just got a bit of woodiness to it. I'll leave the top with a little bit of white and bring in our deep yellow. Well, those colours are really popping against our greens, aren't they? I'm going to even bring in a Naples yellow for these flowers. Let's do the flowers. Oh, I was thinking a Naples yellow. Yeah, a little bit of Canaria. Maybe a touch of that deep yellow. All right, Naples. Let's get Naples on. You see here some of the colours blended from the green, and if you just keep going with the lighter colour, you can wash that out. A little bit, you can wash it out. It's better if you do like this and don't go over the line, but if you do, you can use your lighter colour to sometimes. You do get a little bit of soak up going through there, but hopefully that'll dry a little lighter, a little less oppressive. Even not, we're going to come back in and put some texture with pencils in at the end, maybe on that, so it'll be less noticeable. Well, that's our Naples, and here is our Canaria. Maybe just a touch of that deep yellow in the centres. All right, this is my Canaria yellow. I'm going to bring back my Naples. Oh, Naples, don't throw it at the page. And I'm just going to kick off with some deep yellow. Just playing with these tails for a minute. I think a bit of vermilion, French vermilion wouldn't go astray. I've got some coral red. Don't want to go too hard on that. I'll blend in the edge of that with the deep yellow. All right, let's run that out on the other parts of the tail. That was our deep yellow. Here's our French vermilion. with our coral red. All right, that French vermilion, just lightly. I'm going to bring in a little bit of flame to our tail, but not too much. So the heads and the tails. All right, let's go light. Let's go deep yellow. Let's get our deep yellow. Got these beautiful side feathers here. I think they're going to be as vibrant and orange, aren't they? All right, this is Canaria. I'm going to blend in the sides of that. I just want to bring some French vermilion into those tail feathers as well. I think these will be more along the lines of these big peacock feathers at the bottom here. They're nice and bright. Tapering off to lighter on the edges. And I'm even going to bring some coral red into that as well. All right, what I'm going to do now is all the rest of these feathers, I want to bring in a well, that's Canaria. I'm going to bring in the lighter one, the Naples yellow. Got so many markers in my hand, I pick the wrong one all the time. Maybe you have the same problem. Yeah, so I just want to base these always in this light, and then I'm going to slowly blend in, because you don't just want it all to be orange, because I don't think in a parrot or in a real bird that would happen. There'd be gradations and textures and all different sorts of colours. So I'm going to base it all in this really light one, and then gradually build in some richer oranges, maybe towards the tops of these wings, but leaving the exterior, the outer edges a bit lighter. That's the plan so far. These beautiful wings. So this is our Canaria. We're just going to add in a little bit of extra yellow as we come up the wings, leaving the tips nice and light. Let's bring in our deep yellow. We're starting to bring some of those oranges in. Then a little bit of French vermilion. This is where we really start kicking in some of those flame textures. Those flame colours, sorry. But I'm wanting to leave little bits of all that work that's underneath there. Add texture if we leave little bits of the yellows showing through. And I'm even going to bring in some coral red. While I'm down here, let's put some deep yellow into the background of this little symbol. And then a little bit of French vermilion. And some coral red. Just got a little bits of white showing through there. I'm going to pluck out some of this red. All right, well, we've got our colour worked out now. We just have to apply it to this one as well. So I'm going to do pretty much the same thing I just did. I'm going to start with my deep yellow and work out these feathers. Then we're bringing in our French vermilion. Remembering to leave that deep yellow showing through at the edges there. All right, coral red, that's what we need now. All right, so there are our two main feathers. Now we're going to pick out our secondary feathers, secondary tail feathers with the deep yellow. And then we've got these two tail moustaches, I guess. I don't know what they are. Who knows? The parts of a phoenix. It's a little bit imaginary. Let's bring in our French vermilion. And finishing off with our coral red. I'm just going to work on this head, and I'm starting with my Canaria yellow. Then we're bringing in a deep yellow. Followed by a French vermilion. And I can't remember if we did a coral red, but I'm going to put one on this one. Deep teak, that's what we did this beak, wasn't it? And I'm just going to leave the top white and then come back over the top of that with our deep yellow. Just gives our beak a little bit of dimensionality. Yeah, I think I've got some claws here. I'm going to do that deep teak as well. And a bit of deep yellow. All right, I'm going to do the rest of these feathers. I'm bringing it the same as I did with this one, Naples yellow. Doing the same thing, bringing some Canaria. And leaving the tips Naples. I'm just going to build up that colour. And then some deep yellow. Yeah, French vermilion. And I think even some of this beautiful coral red. All right, I'm just bringing in some pencils. Got a deep cobalt green here. This is my Polychromos. I'm just adding in really subtle shadowy textures. Trying to bring to life this sea green border. There's just some dark indigo. I might just try and add in a little bit of a darker vibe. I think a little bit of white, just to give a little bit of highlight in different places. I have this earth green, which I'm going to use to add a little bit of shadow to our border. Just playing with this a little bit to see if I can add in a bit more marbling. And I think maybe a little bit more of the shadow. Wouldn't go astray on some of our feathers. Right, bringing in a white Posca. And I want to just really get my eyes nice and bright white. Fix up all that bleed. And I think some little highlights wouldn't go astray. I'm just adding a little bit of white highlights here because I really want this to look like marble. Like a rich stone, polished stone of some sort. A bit greeny though, isn't it? Maybe it's malachite. And I think well, I think we're going to call that one finished. Phoenix. It's really moody, contrasted illustration with the greeny and the reds and the oranges sort of popping against each other. And I'm really happy with how that's turned out. Our little Mountain King colour along. I hope you enjoyed that. If you don't have Mountain King, that's all right. You can grab this in the August Colour Club pack on rjhampson.com. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Thanks for your support. Thanks for liking and subscribing my videos, and I hope you enjoyed colouring along with this one. I am going to say goodbye, but I shall no doubt see you in another video. And thanks so much for watching. But for now, it's goodbye. See you later.